Hey guys, Dr. Epic here. Welcome back to the channel. For new guys and gals, this is the channel where I just talk about things that I find interesting, mostly video games thus far. I might very possibly be a nerd. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about one of the gaming's most underappreciated games, Mass Effect Andromeda. I did not call it underrated, as I'll agree it deserves its popular rating as easily the worst of the 4 existing Mass Effect games as of this date. However, I do still think there is value in this game. A lot of people will agree that at least the combat system, for example, was good, and that it was, some say, the best part of the game. Some call it the best combat the franchise has ever seen. And it's this opinion that I want to dig into in this video. So I want to formulate the question in another way. Is Mass Effect Andromeda's combat good? And what makes a combat system in a video game good? Well, it should be fun. It should leave room for evolution of skill, and depending on the game, it should be accessible to learn, but have a high enough skill ceiling so that you feel you can become significantly better than when you started. There are games with different philosophies and design in this regard. The Souls games, they pride themselves on not being very accessible to learn, but that they have a very high skill ceiling. And if that's what you're selling, sure, why not? Other games have a very accessible threshold for learning its systems, with low skill ceilings. Again, that's fine if that's what you're after. A game like Mass Effect, where the combat system kind of serves as just a breather and intermission between story elements and character interaction, combat should be easy to partake in and have a decently high enough skill ceiling so that you don't feel like every combat encounter is just a cutscene. Much like when you bring along Garrus. Ironically enough, Mass Effect has had the difficulty setting narrative, which basically makes the entire game a cutscene. Some people like this, I suppose, which is fine, because Mass Effect has always been primarily about the story and the characters, but to me, combat is also a core part of Mass Effect's gameplay, and removing this part is to me like removing wheels from a car and replacing it with hoverballs. Actually, that's pretty badass. You do you, people. Don't let the haters like me tell you to do otherwise. Anyway, we all agree that the combat system is integral to the Mass Effect experience, as it highlights Shepard or riders and their friends struggle against their foes and make you feel like you're there in the conflict. And I think we can all agree that the Mass Effect combat system have all had an accessible threshold and a decently high enough skill ceiling, though I do feel insanity isn't always enough. Maybe the difficulty could have one more setting or something. It's good enough though. Now, the combat system of Mass Effect, the game, sets the tone for the game. In the OG trilogy, you were on the ground akin to cover shooters like Gears of War.
Hey, a pet shop! Hey, Barry, look, that one's cute. Yeah, it can do tricks too.
Another masterpiece trilogy that I have to talk about one day. Anywho, the OG Mass Effect games made you feel like a, let's say, more realistic and gritty soldier in the world, making Mass Effect feel a little bit more hard sci-fi and thus more immersive. If you ignore the space magic, biotics, and stuff like that. Shepard would in gameplay get tired, very quickly I might add in Mass Effect 2, but who can blame him when carrying around a literal nuke? Shepard would, pop in and out of cover, throw some grenades, roll around, etc. This contributes to an atmosphere that's immersive, even though this is the same universe with space magic and faster than light travel. Mass Effect Andromeda's combat system deviates from the core gameplay loop of the original trilogy. It deviates in 2 major ways: the profile system and the so-called jetpack. The jetpack is a case of so-called advanced movement, where it allows the player to jump higher and further than ever before, as well as perform some fancy dodges. This drastically alters the gameplay loop. Instead of rolling and sprinting from cover to gain an advantage, you can now jump over anyone you want, or jump to a vantage point, or jump out of danger. I don't mind this system in Andromeda. It's fun. And fun means replayability. Andromeda is also in large parts an open world exploration game, more than any previous Mass Effect game. As for the exploration part, the jetpacks also played an important part in making me feel like an explorer. It made me feel like Matthew McConaughey. What?
You don't believe we went to the moon?
You know, when he's on that ice planet and fighting the Martian. That movie, Interstellar, is also a masterpiece, which I may need to touch if I ever start talking about movies like 90% of YouTube does. Let me know if that sounds like a smart or giga-stupid decision. But as for Andromeda, I think the jetpacks work. However, I do want to express a critical view on the jetpacks in Andromeda. They make you feel overpowered. I feel like a Greek god sometimes, flying everywhere and smacking everyone like Homelander from above.
What are you drinking?
I'll tolerate it though. Obviously, I'm exaggerating this point a little bit. But if we were to go back to the Milky Way, for example, which, by the way, it looks like we're doing in the next game, I can't help but wonder where all these jetpack men and women were during the Galactic War. And I know you can be the Turian Havoc in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Trust me, I grounded that guy so hard he thought I was about to ask for his Snapchat.
How can I describe you? You are gay.
In that context, the Havoc worked. He seemed like a rare prototype or advanced super soldier kind of guy. But these jetpack guys are shredding Reaper ground troops. Seems like we should make more of them. Granted, they could be expensive and hard to train, and the Andromeda initiative spent a lot of money on that. I can accept it, lore-wise. And you can also argue that Ryder's symbiosis with Sam makes Ryder extra deadly and adept at using the jetpack system in combat. And I don't mind accepting that theory. It fits neatly with the rules of the Mass Effect universe as well. But then you have to acknowledge that you can be a pretty big badass in the Mass Effect multiplayer as well. And all those people are also using jetpacks. So it seems like the jetpacks are very common in the initiative. So it can't be that expensive. Then again, it can. And maybe the initiative is just really rich. This is all fine. We can always find lore reasons to support the existence of these jetpack powers. But that doesn't change how they make me feel in-game. It's a power fantasy gone fairly far with all this movement power. I feel like that diminishes the feeling of fighting a superior, larger, stronger, better force.
I don't make mistakes. I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better. I'm not some weak-kneed crybaby that goes around apologizing all the time.
And it diminishes the feeling of relatable, immersive, realistic combat. These things were preserved in the OG games, I feel. The jetpacks complement the exploration atmosphere of the game, but it is, in my opinion, too overpowered in the combat sphere, even though it is straight up fun. I guess I sound like an old cranky man yelling at clouds, but I play Mass Effect for the immersion, and the immersion does take a noteworthy hit for me with the jetpack system in the long run. It at least certainly takes away a lot of the tension in the combat experience. As for the next thing that majorly impacts the combat system in Mass Effect Andromeda, and which is a new innovation, is the profile system. It's an interesting addition. It's basically a rework of the traditional class system in the original trilogy. In the OGs, you chose a class at the beginning of the game and stuck to that pretty much out the game, and then you choose Garrus. Sorry, I meant to say you choose various squad mates to complement your weaknesses or improve your strengths in combat. In Andromeda, this is largely sidelined because of the profile system. This system allowed you to basically choose your class on the fly. And I don't have any lore problems with this, as this was a benefit of Sam and his superpowers. Just because something is lore possible though, doesn't mean you should do it, obviously. The profile system for me was also, I'll be honest, it was too complicated for me to bother to learn how to use effectively, but you can find some pretty insane gameplay footage of people changing back and forth mid-combat. And I'll agree, the profile system enhances and heightens the skill ceiling, which is good in and of itself. But I don't think I want this system to continue in other games. It's not really a big deal, but it does take away part of the role-playing experience for me a little bit. But at the same time, I have to be honest, I only ever played Soldier or Adept/Vanguard in the original trilogy because of how important it was, since you could only choose once, and it would be with you for the remainder of your gameplay. That made me too scared to experiment. The profile system kind of fixes this problem, and I will give them praise for that. And I'm glad they tried it out, so that now we know how it works in a Mass Effect game. I'll say the same about the jetpacks really. But I have to judge these choices as they panned out. A for effort, C for result. An alternative to the profile system could be to have traditional classes, but fewer classes. However, each class has more potential than before. For example, you could blend Adept and Vanguard together, Sentinel and Engineer together, Soldier and Infiltrator together. What do you guys in the comments think about that? Do you have any alternative ideas? Let me know, because maybe some developers see this, or the right person sees it and tells it to the right person, and so on and so on.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
Let's try and summarize these points. Mass Effect Andromeda's combat is fun. It does diminish tension and, for me, immersion. Do I think it's the way we should make combat going forward? No. I say go back to the OG philosophy, the Gears of War vibes. Is the combat system in Mass Effect Andromeda good? It's smooth, polished and fun. I'll say it's good. That's it, video could have been 5 seconds. But it's all about the journey, folks, not the goal. But what do you guys think? Was it good? Did this video touch on some cool points on this topic, or was it a complete waste of time? Let me know in the comments so me and the lurkers can see. Anyways, for now, Dr. Epic, signing off.